Look what I got for my funeral. A Ouija board. And that way I could go to the funeral too. I don't want to miss the party of the year. So you could summon me and I'm gonna haunt you. I'm gonna haunt you.
There's a question I actually wanted to ask a priest, but the interview has been rescheduled to July 3rd, so I'd just like to know whether you've ever asked a priest something like this before. You know how ghost hunters sometimes play around with a Ouija board in cemeteries, trying to communicate with spirits? They think they're talking to the dead, but they're really talking to demons.
Would you ever play a Ouija board in a graveyard? I think 10 out of 10 times I would say, do not do that.
And so my question is this: do exorcists ever have to perform exorcisms in cemeteries from time to time? I'll share the exorcist's answer once I get it, but in the meantime I was wondering if you've ever asked a priest something similar. And I started thinking about this after I came across this clip.
Well, when you go to a cemetery, you could pick up spirits.
Like how?
And they could follow you home. Like if you're not, in the Middle East, oftentimes they will tell you to cover your head in the cemetery or just be very careful in the cemetery because the jinn live there, and they inhabit that area, specific jinn. The ghouls, they say.
What is it? Say it.
The ghoul, the term ghoul in English?
No.
You never heard the term ghoul?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so I'm assuming it came from the Arabic term ghul,
Okay.
which is a jinn, and they eat the flesh of the dead, they say. So a lot of people in the Middle East, they are very careful when they go into a cemetery because you can go in, and if you're not careful, if a jinn takes a liking to you, they can attach to you. And not just the jinn, I mean, we're not the only ones that believe that way. Like, Haitians believe that way. A lot of people, or if you go in there and you're very disrespectful. Like, a friend of mine went to Julie, shout out Julie, Magical Witch. She went to Salem and she saw a bunch of kids taking stuff from the gravestones. And she let them have it. She's like, what are you doing? That is like the ultimate disrespect. And that is going to get you messed up.
Anyway, like I said, I'll share the exorcist's answer once I have it. But for now, let me share this clip of Father Francis. I actually asked his opinion on whether other religions know anything about guardian angels. Listen to this.
Tell you the truth, I don't want to. I never want to be thought of as somebody who knows everything, all right? Because it really would take a long, long time to know everything. I'm trying to remember any text or any teaching about like a personal guardian angel. In other words, an angelic power that accompanies us, the way Jesus talks about it in the New Testament. Remember that Jesus says you have to respect little children because their guardian angel sees your heavenly Father who is in heaven. Now, this is really an interesting statement if you think about it. In other words, the angel is caring for the child, but sees God the Father. All right? So simultaneously with caring for the child, that angel is also in intimate relationship with God. All right. So it's like God is really close to the child, and the angel is kind of mediating the care. All right. That's a really very profound insight, and really, if we think about it carefully, we really begin to appreciate why we should really have respect for our guardian angel. Because in a certain sense, the guardian angel is bringing us closer to God. So I don't think I've ever seen anything quite exactly like that in a Hindu, Buddhist, or Muslim text. But I wouldn't be surprised if you dig far enough, you'd find something like that. Certainly, both the Muslims and the Jews have the idea of the good and bad influence. And one is on your left shoulder and one is on your right shoulder, this very old idea. And so we see cartoons of that, but actually they really, in ancient times, they believed there was this, voice over here telling you to do good and this voice over here kind of telling you to do bad things, So So, but this was why, because, and this comes up, like I'll tell you, even, this morning talking to somebody in the bank, all right, how many times people will say to you, Father Francis, why is it that there are people who seem to like to do bad things? The so-called toxic people, right? Could it be that these are the people who are like contaminated by the dark side? That they're really listening a lot to that bad voice. And now they've begun to enjoy hearing that bad voice and letting that bad voice direct their behavior. I mean, some of the things that you hear, of course, those terrible atrocities in and around Trieste and other places, clearly there was some kind of demonic influence. And also when you hear about men murdering their girlfriend or their wife, or threatening their wives with weapons. I have a friend who I've been giving spiritual direction to. She was threatened with a pistol on a regular basis by her husband. All right. Another woman who was beaten regularly by her husband. So we hear these stories and we're aware that there's a dark side out there, a very corrupt influence, that brings harm. And with there's no rationality to it. There's no explanation for it. It seems like there's an alien influence. And so this is another good reason why, of course, we want to have devotion to the guardian angel, that he will help us avoiding those kinds of contamination. Also, a devotion to Saint Michael the Archangel, who is very powerful in this. And of course, the rosary is a great weapon in the spiritual battle. Okay.
This channel is no longer monetized, so there shouldn't be any ads from YouTube, and it's actually very liberating. I can finally cover topics without fear of censorship and talk openly about so many things that are happening in our society today. And I'll be having more interviews with not only the exorcist but non-exorcist priests as well, to talk about the more serious issues like drugs, sex, terrorism, which are pretty much a big no from YouTube. But if you'd like to continue supporting the works, please consider joining us on Patreon. There's also a PayPal link in the description below if you're able to. And I'm sorry for making this request, but it's one of the ways to keep this sustainable in both the short and long term. The 2 new interviews that answer so many of your questions haven't been released on this channel yet. I'll be releasing the full interviews and clips on Patreon first, then sharing the shorter clips here on the channel afterward. But anyway, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for your continuous support of this channel for the past 3 years. There will be a lot more updates on this channel from here onward, both short and long videos. And as I said, I'll be covering darker and more sensitive subjects that YouTube doesn't normally approve of. I'll also be reaching out to priests who aren't exorcists for interviews.
Well, of course, I got interested in the shroud a long time ago because it, you look at this image and there are many things there that seem to uniquely represent what Christ himself went through in his passion and death on the cross. Okay. Plus, the object itself is a burial cloth, so it brings us to the tomb. All right, and then of course there's the whole light phenomenon, which suggests that Jesus was in command in a unique way of a tremendous energy, right, that would leave an imprint on a cloth as he rises from the dead. Okay. So, the shroud is not just an image, but it really is showing you something about how we were redeemed and also how Christ is still with us, right? The resurrection. I mean, that's pretty amazing just to have it right like that. Because as you probably have heard in some of the studies, some of the images on the cloth are double, as if like one of the hands was moving when that image was formed. Okay. So it's an image not of a dead person, but of a person coming to life. All right. And the other thing, I guess, recently there's been a lot of attention given to an article in which they did an analysis of the fibers of the cloth, and they were able to clean away all of the layers of dirt and accumulated grime and grease and bacterial residues and all of that, and get down to the original fibers. And then they tested those fibers with the carbon-14 dating, and they showed that the cloth really is 2,000 years old and not 700 or 800 years old, the way the previous testing had attempted to show. So we're getting closer and closer to uh, identifying that this is an authentic relic of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, which is fantastic. When you think about all of the terrible things that could have happened to that piece of cloth over 2,000 years, could have been lost, could have been burned, could have been stolen, could have been buried, and yet here we still have it, right? And of course, here we are living in a time where faith, people are challenging the faith all the time. Who believes in this, who believes in that, who doesn't believe in anything, and then there's materialism and hedonism and all kinds of things, and people are extremely distracted. And all of a sudden, in the midst of a world like that, boom, you've got this amazing relic, more and more studied, more and more recognized as, wow, there's something there. This is really important. And so it's a kind of a silent gospel, isn't it? It's a kind of silent proclamation that what we have believed really is true. And that in itself, is shattering, because then it's not just a relic to be admired, but it becomes a message, telling us, in the midst of everything that we're going through, I have left you something of my own life and death to invite you to live that life with me. All right.
Again, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. Until next time, thanks again for watching, and may God bless you.